Hello and welcome. The goal of this podcast is to get listeners connected with others in the sports industry because they say it's all about who you know, and now you know us. Hello and welcome, everybody. This is your host, Connor Schenk, and today you're listening to the Constant Sports Podcast. We have a special edition today because we're diving into the sports technology world with my good friend, Chris Shreeve. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Thanks, Connor. Looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And the past guests we've had are a lot of, like the sports marketing, sports agents, things of that nature. So it'll be fun to kind of have the sports technology, background in it with your experience with your ad agencies and things of that nature. So I guess to start for the viewers listening and watching here, Chris actually landed his dream job right out of college with the Seattle Mariners. So let's just dive in there, Chris. What made that your dream job, and maybe why was that your dream job coming out of college?
Yeah, I played lots of sports when I was growing up. I mean, my parents, I think, did a good job of not kind of pigeonholing me into one sport. 5'11", wasn't going anywhere in baseball. Certainly not in football, but baseball, I really always had a knack for. Love the sport. And then also being out here in Seattle, Washington, born, raised, went to college out here. The Mariners in the 90s were really our team.
Yep.
So when you think back to Ken Griffey Jr. and the early days of A-Rod and Randy Johnson, the 90s were a big time in sports for Seattle, and the Mariners were at the forefront.
Mm-hmm. And so did you kind of go into that in a college knowing like, okay, so the Mariners growing up, that's who I want to work for. That's kind of it. And so were you connecting with people in the front office or executives, or kind of have that, what made you kind of, I guess, get the job? How'd you get into that whole process?
So it's a funny story. I got my first internship in college, was a sports PR firm. They came to my class, and when you have guest speakers, a lot of people tune them out.
Yep.
Maybe they're not of interest, but I heard sports marketing, sports PR. And so I was really attentive. Had my very thin resume at the time ready, and went up and talked to the individual who's still a mentor today, and even a strategic advisor to Locker Room Labs, funny enough. He was looking for someone to intern, and I raised my hand and got my first internship from a class in college. And he asked me, he said, "Hey, do you happen to play baseball? We need an extra person for a softball team that we play on." And little did I know it was the SVP of marketing for the Mariners, now the Sounders, head of ticket sales for Ticketmaster, the head of sports sponsorship for T-Mobile.
The stack.
A wild roster. I played with that softball team for nearly 15 years, from that day pretty much until now, and was lucky enough to meet a ton of great people with the Mariners. So what I would say is it was unconventional, but I made sure to put myself out there and to take internship opportunities as early as freshman, sophomore year of college, to get that experience. But what I gained was experience in networking and connecting, maybe more so than the actual marketing internship itself.
Right. Yeah. So the reason I ask is a lot of the viewers and listeners are either kind of in that about to graduate, or maybe they're in grad school about to graduate that, looking for that job. And so, I'm always trying to ask others who have completed that, got the job out of college, kind of what they did. And a lot of the time, I feel like it's something similar to how you did it. It's you kind of got to take the step. It's not always going to say, hey, do this, do that. You're going to have to, be attentive, go the extra mile, do things like that. And then also goes to show, I mean, you, like you said, you played on the team for 15 years, and the person's still a mentor to you. And that just goes to show that, when you find a mentor, mentee, something like that early on in your career, that it can really last an entire, lifetime in the sports industry, not just in the sports industry, but outside going forward. So I think that's a really cool story in of itself there. That you still kind of have him as a mentor.
Yeah, I think you don't know when you're going to run into that person, right? Yep. And so, particularly in sports, everybody wants to be in sports. It's hyper competitive. Yes, applying for jobs through the job boards or Teamwork Online is great, right? Like that's how you can get your name out there. but being different, unique, putting yourself out there. I mean, that's what sports and entertainment is really all about.
Right.
And so would definitely encourage people to think outside the box, if you're trying to get that dream job.
Hmm. Yep. No, love it. Love that. Love that. And then so you spent some time with the Mariners, and then you kind of went, outside the sports world, as we call it, but you were still in the sports world, working with teams and organizations and whatnot. So, give the listeners and viewers what that was like, working with sports teams or sports businesses, but not in, the quote unquote sports industry, so to speak.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, that maybe the best job in sports is not actually with the sports team.
Right.
There's lots of ancillary businesses where you can take, your experience, the things that you're passionate about and pair it with sports.
Hmm.
Being out in Seattle, Washington, during college and the early part of my career, I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of really incredible technology companies. And so, I really wanted to be a bit more in the tech space as, the marketing, advertising, and overall technology world was, booming in the early part of my career. And I really wanted to be in that kind of hyper growth industry, but I always wanted to keep, sports close, right? It was
Definitely.
obviously something that passionate about when you're younger, but I really, really believe that, choosing something in the early part of your career that you love to do, that you're good at, maybe it isn't come with the huge paycheck right out of the gates.
Hmm.
But boy, is it valuable to kind of stick to your guns and stick to your passions. But I was fortunate enough to work for several startup companies within the marketing and advertising technology world. And in the vast wide world of the web, there's a lot of verticals and a lot of industries that you can go after. But I decided to focus my efforts on building relationships within the sports vertical, both professional sports teams and other ancillary, businesses as well. And so I was fortunate enough to work for and work with over 10 professional sports teams, helping with ticket sales, marketing, online advertising to drive merchandise sales, digital sports sponsorship marketing. And it really allowed me to take kind of my two key interests, right? Personally within sports and
Right.
professionally within technology, and start to build my network and my career around those experiences.
Yeah, perfect. And I think, as you mentioned in the beginning, that the ancillary businesses that aren't, the Seattle Mariners, the Cincinnati Reds, legitimate, sports teams where they use a lot, they outsource a lot, they get a lot of, marketing, and different companies work within sports. So it's not just when you're applying or wanting to work in the sports industry, like, oh, you got to go look at your local hometown team and find out what they're doing and if they're hiring. There's thousands of other jobs that still work within sports that aren't, like you said, the actual sports team. So that's another place to look for the listeners and viewers that are, in that space between trying to get a job and looking for a job, that Chris has mentioned, how he's kind of built his career out in that aspect. So then, now I guess you've kind of exited your ad agency that you had over there, and now you created Locker Room Labs. And so I kind of want to dive into what Locker Room Labs is and how it can be beneficial for sports teams, sports betting, sports fantasy, things of that nature. If you could give us a quick rundown of what Locker Room Labs is.
Yeah, and just briefly, it might be beneficial to talk about the ad agency, just for any
Of course.
entrepreneurs out there looking to create their first business.
Hmm.
Um, I had worked for a couple of advertising companies and had seen both the pros and cons of working with a technology business, right? Obviously, there's lots of efficiencies and bells and whistles and capabilities with technology, but often if there's no human touch in addition to it, it can feel really transactional, and marketing is all about eliciting a feeling and a response, from your target audience, whether it's a fan at a stadium or a fan at home on their mobile device.
Hmm.
And so, mid 20s, was confident enough, maybe cocky to some degree, to think that, hey, look, I'm going to go start a marketing agency myself. Didn't have any concept or understanding of what to do, but I really was passionate about entrepreneurship. And I felt like maybe there were some different ways that we could, help brands and advertisers in the space, provide better marketing strategies and execute better marketing campaigns. And so, created the company with a friend from college and a colleague once we had graduated. Your stereotypical story of working out of a coffee shop and out of your parents' garage, even to a degree. But it was an incredible experience, just putting yourself out there, taking the risk and the leap of faith, believing in yourself, to go and create a business. And over the last 7 to 8 years, it's been a wild ride. Super exciting to be able to build a company up, to doing a few $1 million in sales, highly profitable, and getting to work with some really great people. But like anything, sometimes you feel a pull or a passion towards, something different. I'd encourage everybody to kind of listen to themselves, right? And when you get to a position where, hey, look, you feel like you're hitting a wall, or you're in an industry or a space where that light goes out, right? That passion starts to, disintegrate, really trying to figure out what that next step is to give you that energy. It works hard, along with everything else we have to do, right? So I really just said, again, I love technology and I love sports. So why not create an agency helping build sports technology? Literally not much else to it. I really felt like the sports industry continues to evolve. Sports betting in the United States is really growing as more and more states come online with online gambling, online betting, online iCasino gaming. There's a huge opportunity when it comes to innovation. I know a lot of people are in the midst of fantasy football leagues, and you're probably still using ESPN or Yahoo, just like you did 10, 15, 20 years ago. There's a lot of really cool innovation and a lot of really incredible entrepreneurs within the sports space that are looking to create innovative technology. Sometimes they don't know where to go to help build it, right? Maybe they're not a technical in nature, right? I certainly don't know how to code and build out, technology myself. Fortunately, I've partnered with an incredible team of software engineers to help me do that. So I really felt like there was a ton of growth potential within sports and technology in particular, as we kind of evolve things like, sports betting, daily fantasy sports, and casino gaming in the United States. And so Locker Room Labs is a sports app development company. It's a B2B service-based company that offers software engineering resources on demand to businesses that, maybe don't want to hire and staff an entire tech team in-house. They'd rather outsource it to focus on kind of their core area of the business, right. Or even established companies that are having a tough time hiring quality talent who have experience in sports.
Understood. And then on another show you were on recently, you mentioned an ebook that you and your team are coming out with. So what's the ebook? How is it beneficial for your audience to maybe read or pick up on?
Yeah, software engineering is not the most desirable topic for people to read about, right? Or to talk about, to listen to. And so Locker Room Labs is really been created to offer content that's more digestible about something that's inherently really technical.
Yep.
And so we are coming out with an ebook next week, first week of October, leading up to G2E, which is the Global Gaming Expo.
Yep.
In Las Vegas. It's going to be about the pros and cons of hiring in-house versus outsourcing for sports technology companies. A really kind of expansive read on why you should or should not hire a team in-house, what the pros and cons are, the difficulties of hiring in today's, current economic environment,
right.
As well as outsourcing. Do you outsource to a team overseas, which has its challenges and complications? And, is there another option? We hope that other option is Locker Room Labs, a team of US-based engineers who love sports, who are experienced in building sports technology. But for us as a business, we really wanted to lead with content and thought leadership and provide value to the space through our experiences and through through content. And so we think the ebook is going to be, really our big entrance into the space, really solidifying ourselves as a leader and someone who can, provide great value to companies without being overly salesy and falling into the trap that many B2B companies and even software engineering companies fall into, which is sell instead of providing value first.
Right. Yeah, no, I love that. And it's great timing that your team executed on that. And I want to get your thoughts on, touched on it a little bit, but the sports betting, sports gaming industry. So where do you see, the sports betting industry going here in the next, the near future, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, we're an upstart new company that's shaking things up a little bit. I think that all of the large casinos, I think that all of the large, online sportsbook operators who control the majority of the market are going to have to innovate, or new upstart companies are going to start to take market share. We can't continue to look at sports books that have 10,000 bets, where you can't make sense of any of it, right? Or DFS platforms with the same, weekly contest, with the same weekly affiliate marketing campaigns, deposit $5 and get $100. Things are going to have to change. People expect more engagement. They expect a greater user experience. And so I think that right now is an incredible time for new innovative companies that have really cool data analytics that look at the sport in a different way to provide maybe an edge against the house for casual or professional sports bettors. And then just more fun games that you can play with your girlfriend or wife at home, or your buddies that you normally do a fantasy, pool with. Being able to do something a little different. I think you're going to start to see more companies kind of change the old way of betting and consuming sports content in the near future.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. Looking forward to it. And then what are maybe some sports apps or sports technology that, the casual viewer might not know, that are in the sports industry that are being used on a day-to-day basis with teams or businesses or ad agencies or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, right? I think Sleeper has done an incredible job from a fantasy sports perspective, challenging the Yahoo Sports and ESPNs of the world. If you are a sports fan out there, you're most likely playing fantasy sports, fantasy football with your work, your friends. I know that we all like the easy, simple tools of ESPN and Yahoo, but there are better options out there, right? Like a Sleeper. When it comes to sports betting, I want to give a shout out to Rhythm. They have been doing a ton of great marketing and around their platform, which allows you as the individual, user to put in what your gut tells you about a game, what you think about are the most core components of an actual kind of betting system. So you get to create your own custom theory within an app, and it will spit out, hey, these are the games that meet your qualifications, right? If you love offense, if you love defensive lines, if you like XYZ, you put it into a tool and it spits out games that skew towards, your personalized betting strategy. So instead of going through a sports book and saying, I think this team might cover, you can use personalized, AI and machine learning to be able to create custom models. And then there's so many other cool, data visualization technologies out there. I talk to probably 5 to 10 companies a week that are either trying to raise money to create a new idea, or who are looking to kind of get their technology off of the ground. And I certainly hope a lot of them make it, because there are some cool ideas out there that both the casual sports fan and the sports bettor would really benefit from.
Yeah, that's something that I think will be very interesting to see and play out. And I wanted to get your thought quickly because you mentioned it in there. But as far as AI goes, how do you see AI and maybe it's not new in the sports industry, but how do you see that affecting the sports industry, sports technology going forward?
Yeah, I think what I tell people is that AI is in our daily lives.
Hmm.
And companies have been using AI and machine learning for years,
Yeah,
right? When
right.
you type something into Google, why is it that you get a certain list of things that are recommended to you, right? When you click on a pair of shoes, put it in your bin, and hey, look, you decide not to buy it. What happens the next day? You start seeing those shoes everywhere,
Yeah.
right? That's AI, that's machine learning, that's data. But what I think is changing is that now we, the user, the consumer, have access to AI platforms.
Right.
We can actually use it to inform our decisions. Now, the complexity is that data and information right?
Hmm.
Is it quality content and information? Should we be using AI to write all of our papers in school and all of our blogs and our job? I don't know that it's there yet,
Hmm.
but I do think that AI is everywhere. And those of us that figure out how to harness it and use it in a beneficial way to improve, what we're doing now, or to increase efficiencies, I think that's really where it's at for the common, user.
Hmm.
But it's going to continue to evolve, and I think knowing how to leverage it in your daily work life, it can only be impactful and beneficial so long as it's not replacing you learning on your own, right? And consuming data and gathering experiences, writing, present, all of those things. It's still super important. But it's here, it's coming, and being able to harness it, I think, is going to be the most important kind of challenge we face in the next few years.
Definitely. And then as we kind of started to wrap up here, as you mentioned, you got the ebook coming out here in a week or so. You're going to the G2E conference. What does the end of the rest of the quarter look like for Locker Room Labs going forward?
Yeah, we're really, really excited. The conversations that we're having as a new company with large international sports books, with new innovative startup companies, with data analytics businesses that are in need of software engineering resources and just hands-on keyboard to help them execute on their technology vision. We're going to be working on some really, really cool, exciting projects and technologies here in the near future. And then really it's just growing and scaling the team, bringing on more engineers who have, a knack for sports,
Hmm.
who love building innovative technologies and products and want to be a part of something new. If standing up a company is one thing, seeing it grow, seeing it scale, and bringing on new people along for the ride is another. So really excited, for things like the ebook to come out, for new content partnerships to come out, to continue having conversations like this,
Hmm.
and to continue to get kind of our name out there. But technology is not stopping, and the level of innovation is not slowing down, and that requires sophisticated software engineering resources to be hands-on keyboard building these technologies. And we hope to be that resource for any company that needs it.
Definitely. Yeah. And as we close here, Chris, thanks for joining us today and sharing your insight on the sports, technology, business industry here. And like I said, as we close, could you give the listeners and viewers who are starting early out in their career, or maybe they're at their first or second job, some advice on just I guess being in the adult world, going day-to-day work and maybe entrepreneurship, just your thoughts on starting in your career.
I would say, it may be a little cliche, but create a 10-year plan and
Mhm.
work backwards.
Yeah.
There's the saying, right? It's like people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10.
Yeah.
It really, really is true. Yeah, work sucks when you're younger, and you got to go get the coffee for your boss, and you have to be the one working on weekends, at the booth, or go into the conference. But if you have a plan, and if those things help you get to that next level, that's really where you can separate from everybody else who has their blinders on,
Mhm.
looking at this job and this task and this project. Take a look at that 5 to 10 year plan and start to work backwards. You'll be amazed at what you can achieve in that amount of time.
Yeah, I love that idea. Working backwards and giving yourself a roadmap and kind of a game plan of, where you're going and how you're going to get there. So, thanks again for your thoughts today. And Chris, where can the listeners and viewers find Locker Room Labs or find yourself going forward?
At lockerroomlabs.com, we do have a blog where we're writing new content about sports technology every single week. Encourage people to reach out on LinkedIn, super active on LinkedIn, sharing content, about the sports technology space in general, but also some more granular information around, software engineering, sports tech app development, if that's your thing. But yeah, find me over on LinkedIn. Would always love to chat and expand on this conversation with anybody that this information resonated with. So appreciate the opportunity, Connor, and hope to chat with some of you down the road.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thanks, Chris, for jumping on today. And shout out to the listeners and viewers who were here for another episode. And like I said, we've been talking with Chris Shreeve from Locker Room Labs today. And you can find this episode on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can find your podcasts and shows. So thanks again for listening and tuning in today. And we'll see you guys next week.